Hi, this is Dr. Hakky with Atlanta Cosmetic Urology. We're doing this malleable review today. So I'm going to review the malleables that I've got. I don't have them all, but I've got all of the companies that are available in the United States. We're going to start with Coloplast, move on to Boston Scientific, and then go to the Rigicon malleables. So first up, the Genesis. So the Genesis malleable has been out the longest. Okay, this malleable implant's got a copper coil, and then it's got the silicone backing. You can see that the way that it was designed, they have these little caps. So let's say that you make a mistake in the sizing, you could just change the cap sizing. It comes with a 0 called STD or standard, and a 1, right, and a half. So you can like change the sizing. If you're like, oh, that doesn't look right, you can adjust it, which is kind of nice, right? It goes out from 9.5 to 11 to 13. And you can see here with the markings going from 16 all the way to 24, and the 13 going all the way from 18 to 26. So you can see there's a longer implant for the other device, the longer device. It's got a copper coil. It's the only malleable that's coated with Bioflex. So you could coat this with antibiotic material, right? You could coat this with antifungal. You could coat this with betadine or whatever you want. So this could kill in an infection situation. So I would tell you that I do not like these tips, right? The erectile body tips do not look like airplane noses, right? This is not correct sizing based on anatomy tests and that I have actually performed, and the arc radius or the circle of the corpora up here wouldn't look like a natural corpora. Something I'm just not happy with, right? So pros, it got the antibiotic coating. You do have the ability as the surgeon to kind of customize what's happening here. The sizing that we can see here, 13.5. It is a little bit wider than 13, right? I am checking them. We are checking what they're saying when they say, hey, is it this size? This is actually coming in, clocking in at 10.0 from a 9.5. So this is actually clocking in at 10.2 right now. So this is slightly over what they're saying. Hey, it's 9.5 millimeters in diameter. It's not, okay? So we always like to double check. It's easy to bend down, has some memory, which is kind of what you want here, but you don't want too much memory, and you can bend it up. So concealability is definitely important. We'll do a side-by-side at the end with all the biggest malleables, okay? So that's the Coloplast Genesis implant. Now on to Boston Scientific's Tactra. The Tactra is one of their newer models, right? You can see it has a more dull tip, which is more accurate tip analysis on the arc radius of the corpora. The way the distal end of the erectile body looks more like this, right? You can see they've done very much like Coloplast. They have a 9.5, an 11, and a 13, and this goes from 14 all the way down at the bottom here to 22, right? And then their 13 goes all the way from 18 to 26. Kind of like the Coloplast Genesis. The Tactra's also got the, customization, so you can change the back ends if there's like a mistake and let me go up a size, let me resize this, I cut too much, and you can adjust this by a cap. You can change the cap on the end and change the size. That's really important. Now, this does not have any coating, so it's a downside. It's a non-coated implant, so it's just going to be just the silicone layer itself, and it is what it is what it is. Infection rates are lower with malleables. That's the argument you could make back. However, and if you are in an infected situation, this isn't going to help you, right? It's not going to elute anything after the surgical procedure, which would be a pro for the Coloplast implant. This has a significantly more memory than the other one because it's made of nitinol in the core tip, and you can see it takes a lot more to get it down, you see. So you really have to kind of work at this one. I would anticipate, you can see that that's not bending nearly as easy as the smaller 9.5, right? Let's line this up, right, 13 to 13 and see. So if we had two 13s put in and we bended you down, right, you can see it does come back, right? But it's much, much harder. The Tactra, I have to push really, really hard just to kind of get it there. And you can see it's kind of a little uneven there. The copper coil bends much easier. If I just use one finger, bending it downwards, it's much easier. If I just use one finger to bend it downwards, it doesn't bend as easy. You can see kind of one finger bending it downwards. It really has more memory. You can see that line by line there. So the Tactra is a little harder. You have to use more torque to really get it down. You can see there again, on the wider model, it's much more stiff than the Genesis. Here we're comparing apples to apples, 9.5 to 9.5, and you're bending it again, and you can see that the Genesis just has more bendability to the Boston Scientific. So there's more memory. You're gonna have to do a little bit more work getting it down. You can see that here, right? I can see that I can use one finger and bend this down. I can use one finger and bend it down. It doesn't even sit at the same scale, right? Let's measure them to see, hey, are they lying or are they telling us the truth when they say their sizes? So the 9.5 comes in at actually smaller, 8.9. So this is measuring for me at 8.9 millimeters. So slightly under what they're telling you, okay? This is the 13. Let's see what it's measuring. 12.9. So this is about a 13. So that's pretty accurate, okay? So these are very accurate, right? So again, pros, has a better arc radius tip. Better arc radius tip here at the end, and it's got extendable rear tips that you can change out, right? And then you've also got the changes in size based on length, which is good. If you're a longer penis, you're getting a longer malleable, right? And then you have the bendability factor, which is the downside, I think, of this. And then it doesn't elute anything. So it has a little bit more muscle memory, may take a little bit more. That's that. Okay, on to the newest one in the market. This is Rigicon's device. And you can see that they come in 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. It's kind of excessive, I would think, from the manufacturing standpoint. They can say, oh, we have more options. And it doesn't make sense in my mind. I mean, the difference between a 9 and a 10 is so minimal, I don't think it really matters. Now, when you get up in the 12, 13 range, the bendability factor does change. And this is the easiest one to bend of all of them, right? So let's start again at the tip. The arc radius here is more accurate. You can see it's closer to the American Medical Systems or the Boston Scientific tip. They're very close. It's less pointy than the Coloplast tip. And remember, this is pushing out on the erectile bodies. So you don't kind of want a focal point. You want more dull ends, have a larger surface area, right? It's less I would think, uncomfortable for the patient, just anatomically speaking, but very, very easy to bend. I mean, I can use one finger. This is very nice. It's very, very easy to bend this, which is much easier for patients that have arthritis, things like that, right? You can see it's very, very easy to bend. Nice arc radius. Now, it doesn't elute anything that I'm aware of. It starts here at 17 and goes down to 25, right? And then this starts again at 14 and goes down to 23. So again, it's graduated like all of them, but there's no caps. So if you have to make a mistake, you're kind of stuck and you have to open up another device. Let's say that you cut this off here, and to shorten it, you're really kind of stuck at that size. And when you slice this off, the end is dull, right? So this is more of a rounded end, and I think that's more of a natural corporal look. It's also easier to thread in something that doesn't have shoulders, right? So this has got a little bit of a shoulder on it, right? And I think that the Boston Scientific ones and the Coloplast ones do not have those shoulders, right? Where this one has a shoulder when you're inserting it in the back end. You can say it's definitely a downside. That if I cut this off, there's no cap to put on there to smooth out the edge. It'd just be a sharp edge from where the blade cut this, and that may be more difficult to seat in proximally. It may make me think twice about going up to a 13, go down, or dilate more tissue to try to get this out there. Now, let's measure this first one. This is a 9, and it's measuring at 9.1. So this is measuring or 9.0 now. I got it. It's 9.0 measuring. So it's a 9.0 measuring 9.0. And then this is the 11 measuring at 10.9. So they're pretty accurate. I don't have any other larger sizes. So I'm going to try to bend these together so you can kind of just see, how they are all together when you kind of line them up. And you can see just from a standpoint of the three of them, you bend them down, right? You bend them up. I'm using the same pressure across my hand, and you can just see that it's pretty much, they're going to get you done, but there's more memory with that, the other device. Look, I'm just going to bend this down, just one finger at a time. You can see the Coloplast one really comes down there a little bit further than the other two. And let's just get all the 9s together, right? Put all the tips the same. This is more apples to apples in that one because the Rigicon one's a little smaller, so it's not exactly the same thing, right? So then again, we're going to take this and we're going to bend it down, right? You can see again that the Genesis Coloplast implant is the most malleable of all of them. And the second, coming in second place, would be the Rigicon, and Boston at last there. And if you just give it more power, then you can kind of even them out. But it's a lot more power, and you can still see it still has some memory compared to that, you know. And so definitely pros and cons here for them, you know. You can see, but this is much easier. I feel like this has got some rigidity to it, and you can feel the copper coil definitely giving me some pressure and feedback. Same thing here with the nitinol feedback. I can feel it, and there's some memory in this. And this is just the softest. Let's just do one finger bend, one finger bend, one finger bend. And you can see there again, the Genesis is just easier, you know, but this is the softest one as far as like implants go. I don't feel the rigidity of this rope. There's like a rope in here. You can feel that right there. So that's my review here. I think each one's got its pro, each one's got its con. When it comes to malleable implants, those are the major players in the US market. Again, talk with your local urologist, see if this works for you. Malleable implants have less moving parts than an inflatable, right? So if you have less moving parts, less likely to fail, less likely to have revision surgery, right? You know, the downside is you have an erection all the time, right? So this is a little bit harder to conceal in patients that are maybe spinal cord injury or have less sensation, worse diabetics. They may not actually feel the pressure here, and they may have an increased risk of erosion, right? Because this is always pushing on the end of the corporal body. So malleables have downsides to them, right? You know, they're hard to conceal, and, you know, there's a risk of erosion. In certain people, it's even higher because they can't feel that well down there. You know, but these are less maintenance. They are lower infection rates, and they are lower complication rates in general because there's just less moving parts. This is Dr. Hakky. Please like us and leave comments in the box if you like this video. We'll try to make some more. Thank you.